Hi everyone, welcome back to Maximum Attack Rallying into this week's vlog. Let's start with a little bit of news. You may have seen on Instagram that I've bought a new car, which is very exciting. You're not going to see it in this video. You will have seen it on Instagram perhaps. But next week I might do two videos, so I'll do one earlier in the week about the car and then a regular vlog next Thursday. This week I want to talk about the WRC. Oh God, I don't even know what to call this video. I'm going to pull a face in the thumbnail. I'm recording this on Wednesday, so if something changes on Thursday before I send this out, I do apologise, because it does actually feel like things are changing quite quickly, which is a good thing, I guess. You know, we're finally seeing some action, maybe. I think the thing that concerns me and the thing that I really want to talk about in this episode is just that the action just seems almost panicked. It seems just bizarre and really confusing, I think. So what we're seeing right now, basically, let me try and keep this relatively brief. So we've seen in the last couple of weeks a few changes. The first one of those changes is about the point system, and we've also seen some discussions this week kind of being leaked, not leaked as such, but kind of trickling out into the media about the next regulation cycle and what's going to happen with Rally 1. And it all just seems a bit chaotic somehow. You know, we're talking about changes to the format and potential changes to the car in the face of, at the same time in the background, it was last week or the week before that the FIA announced that they put together a working group headed by David Richards and Robert Reid, which I talked about last week maybe, to kind of figure out the future of the sport. And so on the one hand you've got that happening, but at the same time it seems that they're already making changes, and it's getting a bit confusing, because does that mean that this working group is kind of irrelevant? I know apparently they have already fed some info. Look, my hair is a mess. Already fed some information back to the FIA, because in an interview with Dirtfish, the FIA president, Mohammed bin Saleh, talked about that and talked about the action and the feedback that he'd received. But it just makes you wonder, you know, how much influence are Richards and Reid actually having on the championship and on the future of events and on the future of Rally 1? I'm just not sure right now what to make of it. So in terms of the points, let's talk about that quickly first. So from next year, the point system has changed. So rather than scoring 25 points for winning and 5 points for winning the power stage, now whoever is in the lead at the end of Saturday will score 18 points. Whoever's second will score 15 points. Whoever's third will score 13 points, working its way down to 1 point for 10th. And then on Sunday, whoever wins on Sunday, whoever is leading at or whoever has the fastest aggregate time across Sunday stages, let's say, will get an additional 7 points. And then that goes down to 1 point for 7th. And then you have the power stage as well, which is still 5 points. So this has been done to address the issue of people cruising through Sunday to save their tyres for the power stage. Now, the simple approach that many people advocated for was that, and I was one of those people, was that all you need to do is just put in an extra tyre change right before the power stage, so everyone's on fresh tyres so they can just go for it. There was concerns about that around using extra tyres, though I think you could figure that out within the allocation. I know not everyone was in favour of it, but that seemed quite simple. Other people have said you could just and this is another idea that I actually think is a good one. If you're going to go down this route of trying to encourage people to go faster on Sunday, scrap the power stage and just have bonus points for whoever sets the most fastest stage times over the weekend or on Sunday or whatever. It just feels like they've added a load of additional complexity that's just going to confuse newcomers, make working out championship permutations as the season goes on increasingly difficult. In extreme cases, you could have a situation where the winner of the rally doesn't actually score as many points as the person who finishes second, potentially. it's just all a bit weird, and it feels very disjointed and kind of panicked, and it's like, oh my God, we've got to do something, let's just do this. And on the one hand, I applaud the action, but on the other hand, I just think, why are you making this so much more complicated than it needs to be? There were so many simpler ways to do it. I think that part of the problem here is that they don't want people to cruise on Sunday because Sunday is the TV day. And I get that. But if you look at someone, James Downey, who I do the Pondy's Tash podcast with, raised this. I think it was James, or was it Bob? One of the guys anyway raised the issue that in any sport this happens. You know, if you watch a football game and one team is 3-0 up at the end of the first half or after an hour, they just cruise to the end of the game, don't they? They tend to sit off and protect their lead. And a lot of sports are like that. So I think, you know, rallying's going to be no different, is it? You know, if a Formula One driver ends up a minute in the lead, they back off a little bit and just manage the gap. So I think our obsession with trying to create drama on Sunday is perhaps actually a little bit silly. That actually brings me on to the next thing, which is format. And Kalle Rovanpera's co-driver Jonna Haltunen has done an interview with Dirtfish today where he's talked about that, and I know that David Evans from Dirtfish has also been talking about it in terms of the need to mix up the format. And again, James Downey from Pondy's Tash, this is something that we've all talked about as well. Why do all the rallies need to be the same? Why are we so obsessed with this Sunday Power Stage format? This finish at 2 o'clock on a Sunday, everything has to be around that, every rally has to be 3 days. It's just weird. You know, a lot of people are saying that this could be a way to shorten rallies, and I don't necessarily advocate for that. I get it. I think there is scope, potentially. IPA, for example, you could have a short, sharp format. But as Jonna said, you know, Safari could be 5 days. You know, it doesn't have to be about shortening rallies. I think the important thing is that we need to ensure that each event has personality. You know, the very fundamental thing of rallying is that it's different, isn't it? It's not a race, it's not a circuit race. And it can be something different. We don't all have to be formulaic with every event. There is talk of that changing, and I really, really hope it does. I hope that is one thing that comes out of the working group, that they actually allow the events to be a bit different and break out. But as I said, it just all feels a bit nuts. So just moving back to the whole working group thing, and so this interview with the FIA president. So as I understand it right now, as of Wednesday, December the 20th, or whatever it is, it looks like we're going to persist with Rally 1. So there was talk that at the end of 2025, which would have been 3 years after this regulation cycle, we could potentially switch to a new format. It sounds like right now we're going to go the full 5 years to 2027. There was talk again of Rally 2. I'm an advocate for switching to Rally 2. A lot of people are. That sounds like it's off the table. The manufacturers, for some reason, now said they don't want it, even though Toyota, Hyundai, and M Sport all said they didn't say they would do it, but they kind of abstained from voting about it. As I understand it, Citroen and Skoda didn't want to do it. It's so weird. Rally 1 has failed. I cannot emphasize that enough. It has failed. This concept of these space frame cars just doesn't work. It's not working for anyone. You know, there's no technology transfer if you think about it. So a space frame means you're not advertising your chassis. You can't say our Toyota Yaris handles better than anything else, because you're not rallying a Toyota Yaris, you're rallying a buggy with Yaris-ish panels tacked to it. Engines are now irrelevant because, as I recall, the only one of the three manufacturers that uses a 1.6 four-cylinder turbo engine is now Hyundai. The GR Yaris is a 3-cylinder. The Fiesta is dead, so the Puma is available with a 1.5 3-cylinder turbo. So the engines are irrelevant. The hybrid system is spec. Everyone uses the same one, so there's no technology transfer there. What's the point? There's nothing for the teams to market with Rally 1. The cars are €1 million, so no one can afford one. And we've now had this sticking plaster announced saying that teams will be allowed to run a Rally 1 car with no hybrid system. So they'll have to put a fake hybrid, dummy hybrid, so the weight's right and the weight distribution is right. But I mean, well, I was going to say who's it helping? It's helping M Sport, isn't it? It's been done to try and find a fudge to help M Sport shift a couple of Pumas, I suspect. But why would you? Because at the end of 2027, those cars are going to die. You know, even if we go the full length, which isn't guaranteed as I understand it, those cars are dead and they will become worthless, just like the 17 spec cars. Not worthless, but pointless. You can't use them anywhere. So the whole thing to me is just absolute folly. It's been folly from the start. I know I'm talking about Dirtfish a lot, and it's not just because they pay me to write content for them. If you listen to their latest podcast, it was a Q&A, so fans were sending questions. Part 1 came out this week, and the first question was about talking about the direction, and it was so good to hear Colin Clark, George Donaldson, who's the former Toyota team boss, who used to work at ProDrive as well. He and Colin just laying into it, just really talking with clarity and just being frank about it just isn't working. Rally 1 has failed, and to continue with it is just, in my view and lots of other people who are very well educated, it is ridiculous. And they both said the decision to continue with Rally 1 is purely out of a lack of backbone. And I can't help but agree with them. You know, that one of the reasons given is that Ford, if we lose hybrid, Ford will leave. George said this, and I absolutely agree with it. He and I think, had exactly the same thought when we heard this. Who cares? Ford haven't been in the championship properly for more than 10 years. You know, yes, they've had some... No, I'm not even going to say they've had success. M Sport had success. You know, I understand that Ford provides some funding and some technical support in terms of engines and things. But those cars, those Pumas, all the Rally 2 Fiestas, 3 Fiestas, 4 Fiestas, the previous generation Fiesta World Rally car, the previous generation Fiesta World Rally car, all of those cars were designed by M Sport. If I was Malcolm Wilson, honestly, I would be courting every manufacturer I could think of. I would be going to anyone that would talk to me. Why are we trying to curry favour with a manufacturer that has consistently, for a decade at the very least, not actually been fully in? You know, in a way it's good that they're putting something in, but if they're not willing to commit fully to the championship, why are we even considering their input on the rules? You know, they're going off doing F1 engines, a GT3 program with the Mustang. Rallying is not their priority. So for me, I don't think their threat to leave is a significant enough reason to not change the rules. And I think that if they did leave, we've still got a Fiesta Rally 2. We could have a Fiesta Rally 2 as the top category car alongside a WRC Rally 2 and an i20 Rally 2. I genuinely, I've reached a point where they're not funding M Sport enough to win the championship, so let them go. As I said, if I was Malcolm Wilson, I would be going to anyone that would possibly listen. You know, if you're in his position, why not go to a Chinese manufacturer? MG, for example, are growing massively in the UK, massively across Europe, as I understand it. They're massive here in Saudi Arabia. You see loads of them. Why not go to them? Why not go to a Chinese company who are spending money, who are looking to increase brand awareness? They're looking to elevate their brands globally so that they can break into all of these new markets and achieve bigger market share. Go to them. Go to MG and say, we'll take your smallest crossover SUV thing and we'll turn it into a Rally 2 car, let's go. Why? I just don't understand why Ford is a reason to not change the regulations, because they're not in anyway. You know, in terms of other teams saying that they want to continue with Rally 1, they're trying to protect their investment, I think is part of the reason. Well, I get it, but they've all got Rally 2 cars, so it's not like they need to invest in replacing the Rally 1 car, because all of them now from 2024 with Toyota, all of them have got a Rally 2 car. So we could, next season, I know they've started upgrades for their cars, but next season, in theory, we could just switch to Rally 2 like that, you know? But, you know, realistically, we could easily do it from the end of next season. I know Skoda and Citroen have got concerns. Again, they are not full works teams, and I say this again, I've said this before in written articles, Rally 2 has a cost cap. The cars are 200,000 euros-ish. All you have to do is strictly enforce that cost cap. And in theory, there should be no problems. Yes, you could argue that that Toyota and the like will throw the full weight of their budget behind the Rally 2 car. Yes, But if you're smart in the way you balance performance, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And let's face it, the Skoda, which is a private car, is the best Rally 2 car and better than Hyundai's factory Rally 2 car. So I don't know. I just think, as I said at the beginning of this, right now it feels like we're in a really chaotic situation where there's been talk of this working group coming along, fixing the sport, putting a structure in place for the future. But here and now, at the end of 2023, it feels like we're chaotically changing the format, chaotically changing the point system, chaotically deciding how we should, what cars we should use for the next 2 years. It feels like the sport is in disarray almost, and after the last few years, to give credit to the FIA, while I don't like Rally 1, and I actually had an awful lot of reservations about the previous generation World Rally cars, the one thing that the FIA have achieved over the last few years is parity of performance. If you consider how close the Rally 1 cars are in performance, how close the previous WRC cars were in performance, even how close Rally 2 cars are in performance, they've achieved a really good balance in that respect. Where they haven't achieved the balance is in cost. Rally 1 is ridiculous and has failed miserably. The previous generation cars, they delivered a spectacle, but again, they alienated the privateer. So, overall, my view is that they probably had a negative effect in the long term. It just feels like we've lost our way. We've alienated the privateer. We're in danger of alienating fans. We're in danger of alienating newcomers with confusing point systems. I'm just genuinely concerned, and all of this with the backdrop of electrification hanging over us. I say about Malcolm Wilson going to Chinese manufacturers, I think the scary thing is that electric cars are coming. Legislation mandating that electric cars are the way that manufacturers have to go is coming. And that is going to make it even more difficult to get manufacturers involved in the WRC. I think it's scary times, and I think the promoter really have to get their act together, and we have to find a cost-effective way to continue, even if that's in the short term. My view, and I will keep banging this drum until I can bang it no more, is Rally 2, add a hybrid system from 2027 or 2028. Just switch. At the end of next season, can Rally 1, go Rally 2, and commit to adding a hybrid system at the end of the year after, or the year after that. Simple. Will it happen? Probably not. I think, if you want my prediction, I think in terms of the event formats, I think we will move away from the cloverleaf central service thing a little bit. I think we might start to see a little bit of variation between events. I think we will remain stuck to the power stage at 2 o'clock format, but hopefully we'll see some movement there, which is good. So I'm pleased about that, provided it's done in an organised and coherent way. I think when it comes to cars, sadly, I have very, very little faith in the direction. I think personally we will end up in a situation where Rally 1 will continue until the end of until 2027 or whenever it is. So we'll do the full 5-year homologation cycle for those cars, and then I think from the following season after that, we will end up in a position where we have another overly complicated, overly expensive, irrelevant format. I think they'll stick to the space frame for some bizarre reason. I think the FIA have totally backed themselves into a corner, but being the FIA, they can't admit that they're wrong. And I think they'll just look to pull cost out of it. So they'll maybe slow the cars down a bit, maybe say that you have to use a production engine instead of the current global race engines, which are stupidly expensive. So they'll maybe bring it to a production engine, but I think the space frame will stay. I think a spec hybrid system will probably stay. So I in terms of cars, I think we're in a place where common sense will continue to be absent. I don't like to say that. I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope we move to a Rally 2 style format. I understand if you want to tweak it a bit. I would advocate taking some of the lessons learned from the roll cages in Rally 1 cars, for example, and applying that to the next generation of Rally 2 car. So I would do that, and I would add a hybrid system. Done. Don't need anything else. But I don't think that'll happen. I think we'll continue down this elitist path that's alienating privateers, because that just seems to be the direction of travel over the last 8 years, isn't it now? 7 or 8 years. So yeah, sorry, that's not a very cheerful note to end on, is it? But I despair a little bit at the direction right now and the apparently chaotic decision making. I hope some semblance of common sense comes into it, but who knows? So let's stop there because it's been far too negative. As I said at the very top, the next video will be about the new daily, because I think it's time we should talk about my cars a little bit. Adds a little bit of a different flavour. So we'll talk about that in the next video, and then there'll be another vlog later in the week, next week as well. So as always, please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and on X and on Threads and on TikTok, and there's a Facebook page. So follow me on all of those. There's links in the description, and I will see you again in the next vlog.